Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second part of What If Naruto Was Left Behind by Team 7 after belt test. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
After 2 weeks, Naruto sat at his desk and wrote notes in a small notebook. This was different from the last few weeks, when he trained before and after Team 7's D rank mission. As of last night, one of his clones had finished an experiment that finally made him know enough about the 8 inner gates technique to finish his research into it. The first thing Naruto did was write down some information he had learned in the chakra pathway from regular books. It was taught to him that everyone's tenketsu were the same size, shape, and place. This was true whether you had a Kekkei Genkai or a different chakra. Everyone had the same chakra pathway system. So, his experience with the 8 inner gates technique wasn't caused by a special Uzumaki bloodline that hasn't been found yet, or any other bloodline he might have had. After learning this at first, Naruto was confused about something. He was sure that the 8 gates had been used in experiments, and that slowly putting chakra into one of the gates would have been a part of those experiments. But why did they need to use the forbidden method if they had already found a way to open the gates? Although Naruto thought that they had, he couldn't find any proof that the 8 inner gates technique had been tested before. As a genin, he could read a lot of medical books, but the blonde thought that experiment reports on a technique that wasn't allowed would not be in the library. He did look for them, though. And finally, Naruto could only go back and think about how he opened the first gate with a more critical mind, trying to figure out if there were any other factors that helped him do it. Despite the bad feelings that came with it, Naruto thought about the time he was tied to the log in the training grounds. The blonde realized that when he first pushed chakra against the tenketsu, nothing happened after going over the same memory several times. But when Naruto thought about the moment he opened the gate even more, he saw that a very, very small part of the tenketsu seemed to open up, letting a string of chakra in. Naruto was thrilled when he found out because he remembered exactly where his chakra had first entered the first inner gate. He closed his eyes, thought about the second gate, and tried to slowly push chakra into the same spot, but nothing happened. Perhaps the spot is different for each tenketsu? Naruto was desperate to prove his theory, so he made a copy of himself and told it to check the idea that the tenketsu was weak in a certain place by scanning it slowly but thoroughly with its chakra. But the space where the chakra had entered the first gate was a lot smaller than that, even though tenketsu are smaller than the tip of a needle. That's why, even though the clone looked at the tenketsu for several hours that day, they couldn't find any weak spots. Actually, the clone only got to look at 1/100th of the gate before Naruto got back from training. So, first thing every morning, Naruto made a new copy of himself that would stay in his apartment and slowly study the gate with its chakra to see if there was a place where it could easily enter the tenketsu. The clone had been scanning the tenketsu every day for 2 weeks, but he had only seen about 1/10th of its surface. Finally, he found a very, very small area that was slightly different from the rest. The clone thought about what it was like to open the first gate and checked to see if the weak spot was still there in the second gate. It came to the conclusion that there was something else needed to open the gate permanently. In the beginning, he thought that the second part was the reason why the gate was permanently open. The slow flow of chakra. But there was a first part, which was the place where the tenketsu was infused. On each tenketsu, there was a small spot that worked like a doorknob. But this lock, as Naruto called it, wasn't always in the same place on every gate. He had to slowly use his chakra to search the closed tenketsu until he found that lock. This was the only way to permanently open the next gates. Once more, Naruto complained about how lucky he was to find both the first and second parts of the gate. Opening puzzle by accident. Naruto didn't know if there were any other parts that would let him open the first gate, even after he came to this conclusion. The system of chakra pathways was the same for all ninja, but each ninja had a different chakra. What if his chakra was different from a normal ninja's because he was an Uzumaki or a Jinchuriki? This could have caused some kind of mutation. With the little information he had, Naruto couldn't say for sure any more details about how to open the first gate. He did, however, remember that he would ask the specialist what they thought once he found one he could trust. €. Naruto not only figured out how to open the gate for good, but he also figured out why opening it through that lock gave him different abilities than using the forbidden method. In the beginning, the 8 inner gates technique relied on blasting the tenketsu open with chakra to open them quickly. Since they weren't opened normally, the tenketsu would close right away when the chakra was taken away from the gate. The first gate says that it unlocks the limit of the user's body, which means that it lets the user use all of their strength even though it hurts their muscles. However, this didn't explain why using the forbidden method to open the first gate put so much stress on the body. As Naruto kept looking into this problem, he came across a fairly obscure medical entry. When the first gate was opened, the medical entry showed a patient with symptoms that were similar to those of a ninja. In order to save her child, a civilian mother had to lift a bookcase that she shouldn't have been able to do. Naruto thought that blasting the first inner gate with chakra did just that after learning about it and checking it with other medical books he had read on the subject. When the gate was violently forced open, the body released a stress response that took away its internal limiter. This let the person use all of their strength. Also, the body was put under stress not because the gate was open, but because the limiter was taken away. That's also why the muscles took the most damage. They don't need to use all of their strength. After writing down all of his thoughts in a way that made sense and being happy with the conclusions he came to, Naruto set the book on fire, destroying everything it contained about his research into the 8 inner gates technique. It was impossible for Naruto to know if someone would break into his house and look at his research, which he thought was a big step forward in both medicine and ninjadom. Even he had come a long way just by being motivated and learning the skills that the first inner gate gave him. Naruto couldn't picture what it would be like if a whole army or platoon of ninjas had left their gates open all the time. He would never tell anyone about this technique, at least until he was strong enough to protect himself in this cold, dark world. After being sure that the book was just ashes, Naruto put the pieces of the book down the sink and hoped that they wouldn't get stuck. After that, he sat on his bed with his legs crossed. Naruto chose to open the second inner gate now that he knew everything and was ready to do so. Naruto saw the second inner gate, called the Gate of Healing, which is in the right half of the brain. Then he gently pushed a string of chakra against the lock on the closed tenketsu. Just like the first time, Naruto thought he was hitting a solid wall at first. Once his chakra touched the lock, though, he felt a tiny hole where his chakra was, which let a strand pass through. The gap got bigger slowly but surely as Naruto pushed more and more chakra through the gate. And while the first time he opened the gate, it only took a few minutes, after an hour, it still hadn't really opened. Was my thought wrong? I was let down, Naruto thought to himself. At first, he thought the gate would open quickly like the first one did, and it would be open and stable in just a few minutes. Once Naruto thought he might have been wrong about his theory, he dropped on purpose, sending chakra to the gate. Even though he wasn't sending chakra on purpose, there was still a small stream in his body that was being shaped without him doing anything. It moved toward the hole and slowly widened it. Naruto watched in awe as the chakra was shaped and flowed perfectly through the gate. The hole in the tenketsu slowly got bigger, so no chakra was wasted. The blonde looked at how fast the hole was growing and thought that if it kept growing at the same rate, the gate would not fully open for about a month. €. After 3 weeks. Naruto had learned the 2C rank earth techniques and the Shunshin by this point. He started to tell his clones to try different uses of the jutsu to make it more useful. In earth style, earth shore return, for example, Naruto told the clone to change the amount of earth chakra used or the force used to smash the floor in order to try to make the wall rise faster. Or, they wanted to see if they could do the move with their feet, following the same steps as when they used their hands. More work could be done to improve the other 2 techniques. Naruto told the earth style, hiding like a mole technique clone to move faster through the ground and pay more attention to the magnetic forces to get a better look at what was going on above. As for which technique was easiest to get better at, the Shunshin was it. When the clones used the jutsu, they were able to go farther while keeping its accuracy. Thinking about himself on top of trees was another way he was trying to reach new heights. Naruto was also very good at walking through trees, going as far as the leaf sticking exercise. As soon as his clones learned how to stick to the tree indefinitely, they added the leaf sticking exercise to make it even harder. This caused 2 different amounts of chakra to be shaped, sending a smaller stream to his forehead and a larger stream to his feet. After the clones got good at walking through trees, Naruto told them to start walking on water in the lake. Using what they knew from walking through trees, they quickly figured out that the next step was different because water had a different surface tension than trees. Also, water was a fluid, not a solid like the ground he was used to walking on. In other words, the amount of chakra that his feet had to give off changed all the time. After the clones realized this, they changed how they were walking on the water instead of trying to keep their bodies stable. To make it stick to the water, they started to use their hands that were covered in chakra. Then, they changed the amount of pressure on the water by moving their hands over the surface. So, they could pay attention to how the amount of chakra needed changed as the hand moved or as more or less force was put on the water's surface. €. A lot of time had also been spent by Naruto trying to figure out how to improve his taijutsu skills. He had already learned a number of katas that anyone could find in the library, including the Goken, the hummingbird, and the whirling tides. A style was even made that was based on Hyuga taijutsu and focused on the body's joints and tenketsu. But the blonde didn't forget that he needed to be taught these different katas so he wouldn't pick up bad habits. He couldn't just learn them on his own. Being aware of this didn't stop him from trying new ways to get better at taijutsu and kenjutsu. At first, he wanted to practice against his shadow clones, but they would disappear after one good hit from him. Naruto had even tried making more than one clone at the same time, switching places with the clone when the one he was fighting became weak. But getting that job done was more of a pain than the fighting experience it gave him. Slow contact sparring was the best he could do until he could find a taijutsu teacher. By moving slowly and with very little power, there was almost no chance of getting rid of a clone. Even though this wasn't as good as full contact sparring, it helped him slowly learn how to use each style and figure out which stance would be best for stopping another. Because the clones were getting better at taijutsu over time, they started moving faster in battle while still making sure their stances were right. Another clone stood off to the side and watched their stances. He compared them to pictures he saw in books and pointed out any mistakes he saw. Naruto had even asked Sasuke a few times if he wanted to practice with him because the boy with the raven hair was the best at taijutsu in their class. His attempt was quickly turned down by Sasuke, who said it was a waste of time. The girl with the pink hair also scolded him because she thought he was trying to compete with Sasuke. To learn taijutsu, slow, light contact sparring was the best thing that could happen for him. Before he could figure out how to make shadow clones stronger for fighting, Naruto thought this was the best way for him to train. He did, however, remember to look for a Genin named Might Guy because he had heard that he was the best taijutsu user in all of Konoha. Naruto thought the man might be willing to teach him if the Genin gave him money. But when Naruto asked about him while he was under a henge, he learned that the Genin and his team were on a mission and that no one knew when he would come back. He had, however, been given some strange warnings about the man, something about a green beast that spreads its youthful ways. €. Naruto made a mental list of all the clones that were currently working. 15 clones learned how to control chakra, 10 learned how to change their nature into earth or lightning, 5 learned how to read, 3 learned jutsu, and 9 learned missions. Making 55 copies in all. Naruto learned the hard way that he could only have 55 clones at a time. 5 are reading and 50 are either training or doing D-rank missions that depend on their skills. Naruto thought that he could make and destroy thousands of them at once during his fight with Mizuki because that was before he woke up and his memory became perfect. Their memories were so good that even his clones learned a lot more than they used to, even if they didn't mean to. So, each clone sent back even more memories and experiences, and when he cast them away, he felt an even stronger strain. But Naruto didn't mind too much that he couldn't use as many shadow clones as he could before the first gate opened. He'd rather have a few clones learn more than a lot of them learn less. He could also keep track of the numbers better. The library was also full of hundreds of Naruto clones, even if some of them had been changed. Naruto wasn't sure how to explain this. €. After losing a lot of weight quickly because he spent almost all of his Ryo on the 3 jutsu, Gamma Chan had gained weight again over the past few weeks. Because Naruto had extra money, he bought some things he was interested in. A custom-made ink brush made from materials that conduct chakra very well and could be used for learning both jutsu, Shiki and Fuin. Shiki. Besides that, he had also bought a lot of chakra papers and chakra ink to write on. After a month of studying, he was good enough at math, changing nature, and controlling chakra that he could start practicing jutsu, Shiki and Fuinjutsu. His copies had read tens of books on the different script styles, how much pressure to put on the brush when drawing with ink, and how to connect chakra to the brush in a stable way. In the end, Naruto's writing skills were the only thing that stopped him from practicing jutsu, Shiki and Fuinjutsu. Even though he had read many books, he still hadn't learned how to use what he had read. Naruto didn't forget that his clone had said his writing was tough to read, so he was determined to make it as easy to understand as possible. Then he might make some sealing scrolls and sell them to different ninja shops in Konoha to get extra Ryo to buy the B-rank lightning technique he was interested in. Naruto had just finished his morning training the next day. He was about to switch with the shadow clone he usually sends to stand next to Sasuke and Sakura and stare blankly when all of a sudden, his head started to feel heavy and fuzzy. The feeling got worse over time, to the point where he could hear static and the world began to spin. In fact, Naruto was sure he saw the world go black and white for a short time. What is going on with me? It really hurts. On the inside, Naruto screamed in shock and fear when the disorienting feeling suddenly appeared. He wasn't even able to call for help. He was so weak that all he could do was lie on the ground. As he wished inside for someone to save him and take away his pain, the static noise suddenly stopped. Naruto stayed on the ground for a few more minutes while he waited for things to calm down. Naruto stopped training for the day to find out what happened after his D-rank mission with the team and make sure everything was back to normal. Naruto moved his shadow clone out of the way and took out a notebook to work on his calligraphy. He looked up from the book he was writing in though because he felt like something was coming. Not long after that, Kakashi showed up in front of the group with a puff of smoke. A smiling Genin asked, "Yo, so are you guys ready for your mission?" Sasuke grunted because he didn't want to waste time on another task, but it worked out because he only had to do one mission a day, which gave him plenty of time to train. Sakura, on the other hand, wasn't excited. The long and boring D-rank missions gave her a lot of trouble. To begin, she has no idea how many of her dresses have been ruined by dogs, Tora, and even paint. She also couldn't talk to Sasuke because they were always busy. At the same time, Naruto shook his head. So he could rest for the day, he hoped they would get a quick and easy mission without any teamwork time. Under his mask, Kakashi's smile got bigger. He was willing to bet 1 million ryo that his team wouldn't guess what was going to happen today. "Okay, let's go to the Hokage's office," Kakashi said. He then turned around, took his orange signature book out of his pocket, and began reading as he led the group to the office. Naruto thought about how it felt to sense Kakashi's presence before he showed up as he followed behind the group. It had never happened before, and even though they knew the Shunshin, the Jonin's sudden appearance still caught them off guard. Naruto thought it might be a mistake, but he was still sleepy from what had happened, and he was sure that Kakashi would show up at that very moment. Before. Recognition? Detecting presence? Chakra reading? Luck? Random event? There were several options that came to mind. At the end of the day, Naruto chose to think about how he felt before. He might be able to do what had just happened again. Naruto closed his eyes and thought deeply about how he felt before as his body carried him to the Hokage's office. He could feel everything around him when all of a sudden the world around him turned black and white. There was a silvery white glow around Kakashi. Sasuke and Sakura, on the other hand, had a black and a green aura, respectively. He could even feel his own glow, which was a warm yellow and much brighter than Kakashi's. Is that chakra? I can't believe it, Naruto thought. A lot of people had tried, but he had never been able to feel their chakra. In their 3rd year at the academy, all ninjas in training took a short course to see if they had the skills to become sensor ninjas. When that happened, Naruto failed the test, and he was upset that he didn't have a skill that made him different from his friends. Naruto wasn't sure what had changed. After being told it was almost impossible, he had never tried to sense the chakra of other people again. But Naruto was always picturing the gates in his mind, so he knew exactly how his chakra felt and what it looked like. It was the exact same thing he had felt before. All of a sudden, things fell into place. The second gate inside. When Naruto had this thought, he saw the second gate in his mind and saw that it was wide open and glowing a bright yellow. Oh, so the gate of healing let me sense chakra up to 100 meters away? After checking to see how far he could sense, Naruto came to this conclusion. Even though it seemed odd that the gate of healing could give people sensory abilities, the blonde thought it might have something to do with the fact that it was in the right side of the brain. After the 100-meter wall, Naruto could only feel darkness on the other side. He could, however, barely feel the wall slowly opening up. This made him think that his chakra sensing skills would get better with time, practice, or both. Naruto also learned why Iruka Sensei could always find him so quickly when he played pranks, even though he was hiding from several Chunin level shinobi. It was because his chakra was so big and full. Iruka Sensei had told the class in the past that he wasn't very good at sensing chakra. Iruka could probably clearly sense Naruto's presence, even if he was hiding behind a wall, because he had a lot of chakra and was different from all the other shinobi in Konoha. And Naruto wasn't sure if his ability was chakra sensing or if it was just a part of his ability. He didn't know much about the ability to sense chakra. Because the Genin thought he would learn more about his new ability over the next few days, he didn't come to any conclusions about what it could and couldn't do. The group had finally reached the Hokage's tower and were looking at his new power. Naruto opened his eyes when he suddenly saw another large chakra signature in the area where he could sense things. Naruto stood with his team and waited. He wanted an easy, quick mission so that he could keep exploring the new skill he had just woken up. Life doesn't always work out the way Naruto plans though. His hopes for a short mission were dashed when Kakashi said the next thing. Kakashi smiled as he saw his team's wide eyes in the corner of his eye and said, "Hokage. Sama, Team 7 has come to ask for a C rank mission." At first, the Hokage just quickly looked over the D rank missions and was about to pick one at random before he heard what Kakashi said. Hiruzen asked, "C rank mission a Euro, do you think they're ready for it?" In recent months, Konoha has been getting a lot of missions from the Wind Country. This meant that Hiruzen was very busy with work and didn't have much time to watch how the new Genin teams were doing. Iruka also raised his eyebrows in surprise and worry at the sudden change. He was sure the team would be safe because one of the best Jonins in the village was watching over them. Even though he knew this, it didn't make him feel better about worrying about his old students. Because there was a much greater chance of a confrontation in a C rank mission than in a D rank mission, even though the chance was very small. Yes, Hokage. Sama. Team 7 have shown great teamwork, and I am confident that the mission will be a success. Kakashi clearly stated. Without a doubt, his team was ready. Naruto's sudden change of heart after the Genin exam made Team 7's teamwork improve at an amazing rate. But Kakashi was worried about something, even though he should be pleased with how things were going. While the Genin worked well together, Kakashi could tell that they didn't get along with each other. In fact, he thought they were at most co-workers with each other. At first, Kakashi thought that just one D rank mission a day would give the team enough time to get to know each other outside of mission times. But he was unhappy with how things turned out. As soon as they were fired, the team would split up. Sasuke would only talk when someone talked to him or when he needed something. But even then, he didn't say much. He just grunted to show that he agreed or disagreed. Most of the time when Sakura wasn't working, she gushed over Sasuke and ignored Naruto. When she was behind on a mission, she didn't appreciate the blonde's help. At the same time, Naruto's behavior shocked him the most. Most of the time, the blonde was the first person in the group to finish their part of the mission with the help of shadow clones. He would then help the person who was behind the most. Kakashi was counting on Naruto's good mood and desire to make friends to get past Sasuke and Sakura's walls so that the team could trust and get along with each other. But the Jonin saw that Naruto had stopped trying to make friends with the other two team members after a few weeks of trying. The boy was polite, but it looked like he only saw them as a team and not as friends. Kakashi could only think of one word to describe Naruto's behavior around his team: professional. It seemed like he worked more like a Chunin or Jonin. He did his job quickly and without any complaints. In order to bring the team closer together, Kakashi thought that maybe finishing a C ranked mission would help. Very well then. I have a C ranked escort and protection mission for a single client to the Land of Waves. Your primary objective is to guard a bridge builder named Tizuna until he has finished building a bridge in the Wave Country. The estimated time for completion is 1 month. Do you accept? Yes, Hokage. Sama. If my team can't handle it, I'll be there to help them. Kakashi was woken up and agreed to do the job. Hiruzen took a puff from his pipe and looked at Team 7 for a moment. Then he told one of his workers to bring the client in. Send Tizuna in. Soon after, the door opened and an old man came in. People on Team 7 and the client got their first bad impressions of each other when the door opened. Naruto looked at his customer. Tizuna was an old man who looked to be in his late 50s. He had a beard and messy dark gray hair, and he wore normal clothes for everyday life. Aside from how old he was, the smell of alcohol that came from him was the only thing that stood out about him. The old man's first words made the Genins of Team 7 very angry, even though he knew that anyone in the room could easily bury him 6 feet under, or maybe he didn't. What's this? I asked for a C Rank mission, but all I get is a bunch of little snot. Nosed brats? Can they even protect me? When Naruto heard this, he laughed to himself. Snot. Nosed jerks? In what way does he mean? There are only... oh. People here. At this point, Kakashi felt bad about taking the C rank mission. It's possible that D ranks were better. But even though he was upset with himself, he reassured the client anyway. Don't worry, Tazuna-san. My team is more than capable of protecting you during the trip. Once more, Tazuna looked into his eyes and saw what could only be described as children. He then let out a sigh of relief. The best he could get was these. He just hoped they were as good as the Genin said they would be. Whatever a euro but Genin. San? When are we leaving? Before turning to his team, Kakashi said, call me Kakashi. We're leaving in. About an hour. As the Genin led Tazuna to the meeting place, he said, you heard me. You have an hour to get ready and meet up at the East Gate. As soon as the team was let go, Naruto ran to his apartment to get his ninja supplies, including chakra paper, a brush, and ink. He then wrapped them up in a scroll and put them in his ninja pouch with some extra kunai and shuriken. Naruto also bought enough food, herbs, and spices for a few weeks, as well as some homemade herbal salves to treat cuts, poison, and broken bones. The blonde made sure to lock his apartment before leaving. He then went to Ichiraku Ramen to say goodbye to the Ichiraku pair. That would depend on how long it took to build the bridge. He would be gone for a few weeks to a month. What did Naruto say when he got to the Ichiraku ramen stand? Hey, old man Tucci. One miso ramen with extra pork. The fact that he only saw the old man told him that Ayame wasn't being paid today. It was also my wish to say goodbye to her. Naruto, it's great to see you again. The place hasn't been as busy since you stopped coming in as often. Ayame had also been wondering if you had come in when she wasn't working. Tucci smiled as Naruto sat down on his usual stool. Naruto said, sorry about that, old man. I've been busy. I wanted to stop by since I will be away for a few weeks on a C rank mission. He then scratched the back of his head in shame. Don't worry, ninja stuff, right? I won't ask what you were doing. Just be safe out there, okay? It made Naruto feel good to hear this. Sometimes people would tell him to be careful or safe when he did something. No need to worry, I have been training super hard recently. Naruto heard the entrance sheet flapping behind him at this point. He turned around and saw Iruka walk into the stand. Ah, Naruto. I knew you would be here before you left on your mission. I wanted to have a quick talk with you. What's up, Iruka? Sensei? Naruto asked with a confused look on his face. Firstly, I wanted to apologize that we haven't been able to meet for ramen since you have graduated. We have recently been swamped with missions, although they have gone down thanks to your help. He scratched his face to feel a little bad about it. It was important to him that the blonde didn't think he had been avoiding her since Naruto graduated. That would make her think that the Chunin only cared about Naruto because he was his student at the time. He said, don't worry, Iruka. Sensei. I've been a little with you, you know? Naruto shook his head. He also didn't talk to Iruka while he was working through his feelings. Yeah, I noticed that you seemed a little off recently at Euro. I thought you were upset because maybe you felt like I was ignoring you recently or something. No, I wasn't mad about that. I was just a little mad at the academy after learning about that. It felt like everyone was against me when I wasn't doing anything wrong, you know? Naruto looked down at the table and remembered how most of the academy teachers were mean to him. Iruka nodded his head to show that he agreed. Even though Naruto might not blame him, he did blame himself after reading Naruto's school records. Iruka subconsciously felt bad for the boy, not just because of the demon fox but also because he did badly on all theory and practical tests. He didn't say it out loud, but he did feel it. To begin with, the Chunin thought it was because Naruto wasn't studying enough. But after looking at records of the boy's studies for the first 4 years, he saw that he didn't get much feedback on his tests and homework. He got such good grades with so little help that it was amazing. Naruto took a slurp of the freshly delivered ramen and said, but hey, I don't have to go back anymore, and I did become a ninja in the end. I just had to fill in the gaps for the past month or so. Iruka was shocked and asked, it only took you a month? Yes, I can even make the standard clone. Take a look. Naruto flipped through 3 hand seals, and then a standard illusionary clone appeared next to him. See? Iruka was shocked as he ran his hand through the clone. It wasn't a copy of a shadow. Though he didn't know how good the boy was at the other ninja arts, the clone was by far his weakest skill, but he was still good at it. It only took Naruto a month after the academy to get good at his worst skill, which made Iruka feel both relieved and ashamed. Feeling better because Iruka knew more about the boy's skills when the C rank mission was being done. Feeling bad because Naruto would have been the best rookie this year if the blonde had put in more effort to train early on in the academy. That's great, Naruto. I'm sure you worked hard on that. Iruka complimented the blonde, who gave her a shy look in return. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is what you need to be aware of when you go on your mission. After that, Iruka talked for 20 to 30 minutes about everything he knew from working on C rank missions. Never think the mission will be easy. Whenever you see an enemy, be careful. He also said some other things, like don't be afraid to ask for help. It's never a sign of weakness to do so. Naruto listened carefully and asked questions when he didn't understand something. He knew most of what was being said. That's all I have to say. If you remember it all, I'm sure you'll do great on your mission, Iruka said as the 2 shinobi finished their ramen. Naruto smiled and looked at the time. Thanks for telling me everything, Iruka. Sensei. Don't worry about me. I won't let you down. Oop, it seems like I have to be at the gate in 5 minutes. Thanks again, Iruka, sensei. Good luck, Naruto, even though I'm sure you don't need it. Iruka smiled as he left the stand and went back to his work at the mission's office. Naruto yelled to Tucci, who was outside, old man. When I finish my mission, I will come back to visit. Make sure to tell Ayame-chan for me. He then left Tucci enough money to pay for his ramen and shushed out of the stand. After that, Naruto came back at the front gate in a puff of smoke, which surprised both Kakashi and Tazuna because of how the blonde had arrived. Kakashi waved and said, I didn't know you knew the Shunshin, Naruto. This made Tazuna feel better because she was shocked when the boy showed up out of the blue. The old man thought to himself, maybe these ninjas are much stronger than I thought. Oh, I bought it from the library alongside a few other jutsu with the money from my D ranks, Naruto talked about. D rank missions, you say? Kakashi exclaimed to himself in relief. It made sense to him now why the blonde sent so many shadow clones to do daily D rank missions. He needed the money not only to live, but also to buy ninjutsu. That you didn't think to ask me if I could teach it to you hurts me, Naruto, Kakashi said. He put his hand over his heart as if Naruto had just hurt him emotionally. Naruto replied, well, if you had taught us something other than teamwork exercises, I would have known it was your job to teach us. He was being honest. This very moment, he still doesn't understand what Kakashi's part was. Well, Kakashi was about to say something to explain himself when Sasuke walked in. As usual, Sasuke kept quiet and only grunted to show that he understood. He then waited quietly with the other people in the group for the last person to arrive. Talking about Sakura. Naruto thought out loud as he closed his eyes and felt a familiar chakra signature about 70 meters away. When the blonde looked to the right, he saw Sakura running toward them. Sakura said, sorry I'm late. I had to say goodbye to my parents. She was slightly panting from exhaustion. Well, you're not really late. Late would mean 3 hours after. Naruto began to explain, but Kakashi cut him off. Let's head out, team. Naruto told the group, wait before we go. Everyone was interested in the blonde who stopped them because they thought Naruto might have forgotten something. The way Naruto looked at Tazuna made the old man sweat. Was he really mad that I said something about them earlier? I'm taking it back. I'm sorry about that. Naruto made a shadow clone that looked like a young boy about 6 to 7 years old and had some similarities to Tazuna. This brought the old man some relief. Everyone in the group gave the clone strange looks as it quickly stood next to Tazuna. Kakashi asked Naruto the question that everyone was thinking about, what are you doing? While on D level missions, the blonde was known to do strange things with shadow clones, which was nothing new to the Genin. But this was the strangest thing I had seen so far. Well, you once said that a team is always 1 Genin and 3 Genin, right? So any additional people would be assumed to be a client. If on the odd chance that we get caught off guard by bandits, they wouldn't expect this child, who clearly looks like a civilian, to strike back. Naruto made clear. What? You don't trust us to keep the client safe, Naruto? Sakura's tick mark grew quickly as she listened to Naruto, who was clearly making her and Sasuke look bad in front of the client. Naruto shook his head no and looked confused at the same time. I am not saying anything about our abilities to protect the client. It just acts as an additional layer of protection. The most important thing he learned from Iruka's talk was that you should never underestimate a mission. You will probably die if your opponent is stronger than you think because you saved your skills because you thought they would be weaker than they were. Surprised, Sakura and Sasuke saw Kakashi nod his head yes. That's very smart of you, Naruto. I can guarantee that unless they have a sensor, which is highly unlikely, they will never expect a nearby child to counterattack. Sakura was mad that their teacher agreed with Naruto, but Sasuke didn't mind. The Uchiha was confused by Naruto's sudden insight, but he knew that the blonde was up to no good, despite how he looked. He thought the boy might set up such a trap. At the same time, Tizuna felt safer than before. If he was getting this much information, the old man was beginning to feel good about his choice to hire Konoha ninja to protect him. Kakashi said again, hoping that no one would step in between them. Alright, then. Let's go wave. Naruto subconsciously calmed down a little as soon as Team 7 and Tizuna left the village gates. It wasn't because he didn't think the mission was important. Iruka had just taught him about that very thing. It was more because he had never been outside of the village. He thought that no one outside of Konoha knew about him or the weight he carried. Because of this, people he meets wouldn't just stare through him like people in Konoha do. Instead, you should treat him like a person, which is how he had always wanted to be treated. The group walked down the dusty path, with Naruto in front, Sakura to the left, and Sasuke to the right. Kakashi was far behind, with his nose in an orange book. He was glad to be in charge because he could try out his new power without worrying about getting in trouble with his team or client for closing his eyes during a mission. The blonde went into what he now called awareness mode. He thought of a better name later, though. He thought that since his new skill let him sense chakra even when he closed his eyes, he wouldn't be caught off guard as long as he was aware when he felt a chakra signature that wasn't from his team or client. In the meantime, he might be able to learn something new about this power he had just woken up. Natural chakra sensors were not very well known to Naruto, but he knew what they were and what they could do. Sensors changed their chakra into sensory mode chakra, which let them see through other people's chakra and tell if they were telling the truth. Still, Naruto was able to figure out from this small piece of information that his power wasn't as simple as chakra sensing. And the main reason was that his chakra wasn't being changed into sensory mode chakra. In fact, it wasn't being changed at all. In addition, Naruto knew that his kunai and the rocks nearby didn't have any chakra, but he could still feel them and know where they were. When Naruto saw it, he thought of the Byakugan, which was a type of dojutsu that the Hyuga clan had. That person could see everything around them and keep an eye on everything in their field of view. He couldn't find much in the library about Kekkei Genkei in Konoha, though, so it was hard to make a comparison if he didn't know what the Byakugan could do. It seemed to Naruto that they didn't want their weaknesses and strengths to be public knowledge. They'd rather keep them as clan secrets. Naruto was practicing his new skill and comparing it to skills that already existed. Meanwhile, Sakura, who was bored, began asking Tizuna questions to pass the time. Tizuna-san, you're from Wave Country, right? Then why did you ask a ninja from Konoha to help protect you? Don't you have any ninjas in your own village who can help? Sakura asked, which caught the attention of Team 7's other two genin. Wave Country doesn't have any ninjas, and Konoha was the closest village to Wave, Tizuna moaned. No doubt about Itauro, if they had ninjas, they wouldn't be out here. Sakura looked calm as Kakashi told her, don't worry, Sakura. There isn't any ninja combat on a C-rank mission. As the group moved forward, Naruto felt something tingling in his head, which made him wince, but no one else in the group noticed. What's going on? I'm tired, the blonde thought. He didn't want what happened this morning to happen again. Before getting tense, Naruto closed his eyes to make sure he could see everything. About 90 meters in front of the group, the blonde could pick up on two chakra signatures that looked like they were red. The blonde found it strange that two different shinobi's bodies were the same shade of red. He had no idea what that meant. Is it because I do not know them? Are they dangerous because they're red? Naruto stood his ground because he thought there would be a fight, even though he didn't know what the reddish tint meant. He didn't want to get close to them because he wasn't sure if they were friendly or not. Perhaps they're hiding and waiting for us to pass so they don't have to deal with us? He could only see a puddle on the side of the road after coming out of his awareness mode. The blonde was sure that he would have missed it if he hadn't felt the vibes of the chakras inside. A way to get rid of water? Do you know genjutsu? Naruto thought about a few different ways the two ninjas could be hiding in plain sight, but he kept his eyes off the puddle so as not to let the ninjas know he had seen them in case they got scared and attacked. Naruto looked back at Kakashi, who was still deep in his book. He wasn't sure if the silver-haired Genin could feel them or not. Kakashi had just said that there were no enemy ninjas on a C-rank mission, so maybe he wasn't paying attention. In the end, Naruto could only get ready for battle in his mind. His muscles tensed up, and his right hand moved to his ninja pouch, ready to pull out a kunai at any moment. Everyone was ready, but it didn't matter because the group walked right by the puddle while the ninjas inside didn't move. Naruto let out a sigh of relief and relaxed a little. Naruto had been training hard since the graduation test, but he didn't know how he stacked up against other ninjas because he had taught himself. In a way, he was relieved and happy that there wasn't any fighting. However, things did not seem to go the way Naruto had hoped. Naruto felt a sharp, stinging pain in his head all of a sudden, which stopped him in his tracks for a moment. Not long after that, he felt the chakra signatures move from the puddle and point their arms at Kakashi. Still, Naruto jumped to the back of the group because he thought Kakashi had completely let down his guard. He then used Earth Chakra to power his hands and slammed them on the floor, lifting a thick sheet of earth. Earth release. Return to the shore of Earth. As soon as the sheet was raised into a wall, there were two loud clanging sounds as the chains hit the defensive move, letting Sakura, Sasuke, and Tazuna know about the sudden attack. At the same time, Naruto made a clone sign, which brought a clone into being. The clone used its own jutsu and moved underground before the smoke cleared. Earth release. How to hide like a mole. At the same time, Kakashi kept quiet and watched from the side to see how his team would handle the sudden attack. He was amazed at how quickly Naruto had figured out the enemy's attack and the blonde's use of earth release, since elemental ninjutsu is a skill for high genin or chunin levels. After noticing that his copy was now in place, Naruto yelled, "Sasuke, use your fireball." Sasuke didn't think the fireball would hit the target, but after all the teamwork training the group had done, he instinctively did what Naruto said and quickly made a fireball by flipping through the three hand seals. Use the fire release. Grand fireball technique to send a fireball hurtling at high speed at the Chunin ninjas. They were already getting ready to dodge when they heard the blonde ninja call out to his teammate. The two Chunin could feel that their legs were caught on something, though, before they could dodge. At the same time, they both looked down and saw that two hands had come up from the ground and were holding their ankles. One of the ninjas stomped on the hand, turning it into a puff of smoke. This freed them and let them try to get out of the way of the fireball. But the short delay made sure that both shinobi were well within range of the fireball, which hit them right away. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura all winced as the ninjas screamed in pain and twitched on the floor. Some of them were feeling sudden pain. The most shocked person in the group was Sasuke, whose fireball hadn't hurt anyone seriously yet. Kakashi stopped Naruto and Sasuke from attacking the downed ninjas again by saying, "Right, that's enough, team. I think they are incapacitated." The Jonin was proud of how his team did, but they didn't know it. The way Naruto and Sasuke worked together was almost perfect. Even though Sakura didn't directly help with the counterattack, she stayed to protect Tazuna after getting O Ninja's sudden attack. Naruto's fake son, a boy named Haruto, stayed by Tazuna's side and kept a close eye out for any other attackers. Well done, team. You've all grown since the academy, but especially you, Naruto, Kakashi told his team. Naruto gave Kakashi a shy look, but he was glad that his hard work had been noticed. Asking, "What was that wall, and why couldn't the ninja avoid the fireball?" Sasuke was interested. He knew that the fire release, grand fireball technique wasn't known for being fast, but the enemy ninja still got hit even after being warned ahead of time. Naruto began to explain nervously, not used to having people notice how good he was. "Well, the earth wall is a C-ranked technique that I bought from the Konoha library. I made a wall and a shadow clone that went underground with a different jutsu at the same time. After you cast your fireball, I made sure that the clone would grab their ankles and stop them from moving, so it was almost certain to hit." Naruto finished his explanation, pleased that everything had gone as planned. Everyone was shocked to see the boy who had planned everything up to the point where the ninja showed up. There was a lot of damage done to Sasuke and Sakura. They were pleased with their progress since the Genin exams, but they knew it was nothing compared to Naruto's. Kakashi quickly changed the subject when he saw what they were thinking. During a mission, he couldn't let them doubt their skills. He looked down at the unconscious ninja and made a seal with one hand. Then he spat water at the two Chunin, cutting them badly. As he looked at the ninja with his one visible eye, Kakashi said, "Oi, wake up." He kept talking after making sure they could both hear them. "So, are you going to tell us who your target was? If not, I will send you back to Konoha for interrogation." A euro. Kakashi glared at the old man and asked, "So, Tazuna-san, would you care to explain yourself?" As soon as they were attacked, the Jonin knew the bridge builder was the target because the attackers were too weak to be going after him. Even so, Kakashi was still mad that the old man had lied to him about the details of the mission, which could have hurt his team if a stronger ninja had shown up. The mission wasn't a lie. I needed protection. These people were sent by a businessman to stop me from building the bridge, Tazuna said with a sigh. Let me explain the details of the mission. You may know the businessman Gato. He is worth a lot of money and started the Gato company. But most people don't know what kind of person he really is. They think he's just a businessman. As it turns out, he is a dishonest jerk who does shadier things like smuggling and trafficking drugs. He currently has the land of waves in a chokehold by taking control of our shipping routes to create a monopoly so he can earn even more money. So we are revolting against his rule by building a bridge. It is the only way we can connect to the mainland to start trades again. Tazuna got more and more angry as he talked, and he finally broke down in tears as he talked about how horrible things had become in his once peaceful country. As much as I understand and feel sorry for your situation, my genin are not yet equipped or trained enough to fight enemy ninja. These two are Chunin level, and while my team was able to defeat them, I'm sure things could have gone very differently. You lied about the details of the mission as well, which is against the contract. Kakashi explained, that's why we can give up the mission and go back to Konoha. Even though Kakashi felt sorry for the man, the safety of his genin was the most important thing to him. He was willing to give up the mission to make sure they were safe. Hold on, Kakashi. Sensei. Isn't it strange that Tazuna was only attacked on his way back from Konoha? Naruto asked Kakashi as he was about to deliver the final blow to the man who was almost broken. Everyone looked at him in surprise. How did Gato get out of wave if he had ninjas on his side? Hama Euro, you're right. Ninjas were expensive to hire. Missing ninjas were cheaper, but they were also more dangerous because they were more likely to betray you. If Gato was as greedy and afraid as Tazuna said, he would have hired them as soon as he heard that the bridge builder had left to ask Konoha for help. But changes to the mission's parameters still need to be taken care of in the right way. I will talk to my team about it to decide if we should keep going with the mission or not. Kakashi pulled Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto to the side to have a short talk. I think we should help the old man. He wasn't lying about the details of the mission, and I couldn't leave the people of Wave in such bad shape when I could have helped. Naruto first said what he thought, then listened quietly to what the others had to say. Sakura looked unsure. She felt helpless against the enemy ninjas. But she could see that Naruto was set on continuing, and Sasuke looked like he was about to agree too. After Naruto showed him up, Sasuke said, I also think we should keep going. He wasn't kidding. This was the first mission where he could fight enemy ninja instead of painting fences. He didn't want to go back now. When Sakura heard that Sasuke agreed, she reluctantly nodded her head. But Kakashi and Naruto's next words made her feel better. I think we should keep going, but I also think we should ask Konoha for help. If you want, Kakashi. Sensei, I can send a shadow clone, Naruto said while taking another note from Iruka's talk. Kakashi nodded and agreed. To have backup is a good idea, Naruto. But there's no need to send a copy. I have a better idea, Kakashi said as he looked through several hand seals and then slammed his hand on the ground. Naruto saw small writing that he recognized as jutsu. Shiki, where the two hands met. In front of the group, a puff of smoke spread out, revealing a small brown pug that gave Kakashi a salute. It was wearing a Konoha forehead protector, which made Naruto laugh. Kakashi put a scroll on Pakun's back and told him, Pakun, take this scroll to the Hokage's office as soon as possible. Pakun ran off to Konoha right away. Kakashi and the others went back to Tazuna, who was both looking forward to and dreading the words that were going to come next. we are going to do what we normally do and have also asked for help. However, since the mission requirements have changed to a B rank, so will the amount of money you need to pay when the mission is over. Do not worry. You can set up a payment plan that lets you pay over time. Thank you, thank you. Tizuna thanked the ninja for helping him free Wave from its master. Tears of joy ran down his face. A nice fisherman agreed to take the group over the water through thick fog, and they had just arrived at the land of the waves. They couldn't see the bridge until they were close to it because the mist was so thick. If there was only one word to describe the unfinished bridge, it would be huge. Naruto shut his eyes and tried to feel the huge bridge all the way through. But even though he thought his sensing area was pretty big, he still couldn't reach even a 20th of the bridge. It certainly showed why Gato was in such a hurry to kill Tizuna and stop the bridge from being built. Once the bridge was finished, he would no longer be able to take over Wave and would not be able to change his mind. The people got off the small boat and thanked the fisherman for taking them across the water. They then stepped onto the land where trouble waves were crashing. It looks like there were only those two ninjas, huh? Anyway, I welcome you all to the wave country, even though it's a little empty right now. Tizuna pointed to the area around him, glad to be back home. My house isn't too far away from here. We can reach it before night falls. €. Moving along the road, the group could hear something rustling in the bushes next to them. Without thinking, Naruto went into his awareness mode and quickly figured out it was a rabbit. Before he could calm down, though, a strong chakra signature came into his awareness. That person's chakra signature had to be very close to Kakashi's, and they weren't afraid to show it. This made Naruto freeze in fear. The man's hair was also dyed a scary red color, which didn't help. All of a sudden, the man seemed to flick his wrist, which let go of a huge sword that spun toward the team. Naruto was in a lot of pain in his head, telling him to stay away from the weapon or die soon. When Kakashi heard that something was coming, he opened his eyes wide and called out to the group. Go down. Kakashi and Naruto both screamed as they dove to push people nearby to the ground. Takana and Sasuke were pushed by the Genin, and Naruto pushed Sakura and Haruto, his clone, down. As soon as they hit the ground, a huge sword flew over their heads, sending strong winds in its wake before getting stuck in a nearby tree trunk. When the dust settled, Naruto instinctively turned to the man who was now standing by the sword. He was shocked by how mean the man was to their group. He couldn't help but think, maybe it would have been smarter to wait for backup before moving forward. Naruto didn't say it, but he was a little proud that he had beaten the two Chunin ninjas without getting hurt. He thought that they would be able to handle any other ninja that came their way. However, because they were wrong, they had to face a scary enemy without being ready. And Kakashi said, Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist, with one eye narrowed at their attacker. Zabuza laughed off the one-eyed Jonin's stare and said, oh? I'm glad to hear that Kakashi of the Sharingan has heard of little old me. At this point, Naruto wished he hadn't been so focused on training and had instead spent some time learning about the people who might be his enemies in the future. He had no idea who this Zabuza Momochi person was. After the fact, Naruto couldn't be blamed for this because he never thought he'd be fighting high-level ninjas so soon in his career. Let's cut the small talk. What are you after? I'd really like it if we didn't get into a fight because I'm on a mission, Kakashi said, trying to calm things down while keeping a close eye on Zabuza because he thought he might attack his genin and client. Zabuza said something scary as if they were having a friendly conversation. Of course, I want the bridge builder. Leave the old man with me, and I'll let you go on your way, he said. Kakashi sighed and lifted the piece that covered his forehead. It showed a Sharingan in his hidden eye. Unfortunately, that isn't something I can accept. I guess it can't be helped, huh? As Zabuza looked at Kakashi, he said, the Sharingan. It is an honor to see it in action. But his tone didn't show that he was scared. I can't wait to fight the man who has copied over 1,000 jutsu. Kakashi the copy ninja. Team 7 was shocked to hear this because they didn't know much about their teacher other than the fact that he was lazy and liked reading erotica in public. Kakashi yelled, Team 7, triangle formation. They formed a circle around Tizuna and Haruto right away, with each genin taking a point and a kunai in hand. After getting his sword, Zabuza jumped into the nearby lake and sealed his hands. The mist suddenly got so thick that no one could see more than a few meters ahead of them. This has to be the worst time for the mist to roll in. The land of waves is surrounded by water, so swirling mists do show up every once in a while, Tazuna told the nearby members of Team 7, even if it was just to calm down from Zabuza's intense desire to kill. When Naruto heard this, he shook his head no. That's impossible. This is no natural mist. It is completely saturated with chakra. It has to be some sort of ninjutsu. The blonde shut his eyes and tried to feel through the fog. It was full of a bluish chakra that made him feel disoriented because of how concentrated it was, but he could still figure out where everyone nearby was. Naruto felt that there was another chakra signature hidden in the trees, which was strange. Another foe? He thought without meaning to. The red tint, which he had come to associate with people who were trying to hurt him, wasn't there, though. He would keep an eye on this new signature, but he wouldn't attack it because he had learned from his mistake of assuming by missing the Chunins in the puddle. How to hide in mist, right? Kakashi thought to himself as he looked into the mist with his Sharingan and saw chakra filling it. The technique was Zabuza Momochi's specialty, and he was very good at it. In the thick fog, Zabuza's dark voice could be heard, 8 spots. The larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, the subclavian veins, kidneys and the heart. Now a euro, which vulnerable spot should I attack? All of a sudden, there was a strong, dense intent to kill in the air. It made everyone feel heavy, and the Genin and Tazuna tensed up in fear when the suffocating aura suddenly showed up. What does this feel like? Even if I close my eyes or take a breath, I will be marked and killed, Sasuke told himself. He held a kunai to his throat. He would rather die than keep going through this. Sakura also stopped moving and shook with fear. After Tazuna, she was the one who felt the terrifying killing intent the most, to the point where she thought she was going to pass out. At the same time, Naruto's senses were all over the place. He could barely stand the sharp, stabbing pain in his head. It told him he was in danger and that he needed to get away from the monster in front of him. As Kakashi spoke, his soft voice calmed his Genin and Tazuna down. Everyone stay calm. There's no need to panic. I promised that I would never let my comrades die. Never again. He knew that his students must be scared. They were not ready for this. This was something that no one could have planned for. A voice from inside Team 7's formation said, "Oh really? Well, allow me to be the first and last person to break your promise." Right away, Naruto turned around and instinctively drew his kunai to where he thought Zabuza was. Before a liquid sprayed on his face, the blonde thought he had touched something or someone. It was water, right? A clone? Naruto screamed in shock as the Zabuza next to him fell over and soaked in water. At this point, the other 2 Genin had already acted, and they were both glad that the blonde had done something so quick and strong. Oh? To think that I would be detected by a snotty brat. I almost feel sorry for your talent going to waste by killing you. But you can only blame yourself for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Zabuza's voice came from the lake. Once Kakashi knew exactly where Zabuza was hiding, he disappeared, then reappeared behind him and cut his throat with a kunai. Again, the body leaked water instead of blood, which wasn't what was expected. Water clone once more? The Jonin with silver hair thought in fear. In silence, Zabuza rose from the water behind Kakashi and quickly flipped through several hand seals. His hands were blurry from the speed. Water release. The water prison method. Kakashi was stuck in place because the water around him in the lake covered him. Zabuza smiled as he watched the Jonin try to escape but fail. It's futile, Kakashi. Now watch as your Genin die due to your incompetence. Kakashi yelled at his team, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura. Take the client and run. He hoped they would leave him there. He knew they had no chance against Zabuza, who was a freak. The man was way too good for them. At the same time, Zabuza made a single water clone that slowly made its way to the group, leaving a trail of his footsteps on the water. A young boy who was farther away from the group caught his attention. At first, he was going to kill the boy without realizing it to kill the Genin spirit, but then he thought of a better plan. The clone disappeared and then reappeared right next to the boy with a sword around his neck. As it turned out, the bridge builder had brought his grandson with him on their trip to Konoha, which made the trip more fun. Zabuza teased the group, How about this? You give me the bridge builder, and I'll give you the boy. He said this while smirking at how everyone moved awkwardly in response. He would give them the boy, but he would still kill them all after the deal. That way, if someone does make it out alive, they might always remember not to trust your enemy. Haruto screamed, Grandpa, save me. With tears in his eyes. Everyone looked angry and helpless at what they saw. However, even though the situation made them scared, Kakashi, Tizuna, Sakura, and Sasuke couldn't put their minds on what was wrong. They thought they had forgotten something. "Be quiet, kid. One more word, and you'll die right now," Zabuza told the wriggling boy in his arms, making the boy stiffen and look to Team 7 for help. Naruto screamed, "Hey, let him go." Multiple shadow clone technique. And several shadow clones ran towards Zabuza on top of the water of the lake. Sign clones and walking on water as a genin? He seems smart but. "Na ve," Zabuza said with a smile. He could see that this kid hadn't been in many fights. "You shouldn't shout out your technique names, kid. Did they teach you nothing in the academy?" Zabuza killed all of the clones with a single swing of his sword, and they split into clouds of smoke. Once more, Zabuza teased, "Since you didn't accept the deal, I'm going to have to retaliate." He liked this new game and seeing Kakashi's sad face. The clone flashed through a few hand seals before letting water rush out of his mouth in a way that looked like a waterfall. The water quickly moved toward Team 7. The taunt, Earth Release, Earth Shore Return, didn't bother Naruto. He slammed his hands on the floor and yelled the name of his next move. Because Earth is strong against water, the wall was able to easily stop the water technique. At this point, Zabuza's copy was close to the genin and could easily kill them with a single swing. The boy with the raven hair slowly turned his fear into determination, but the girl with the pink hair stayed still. Because he wanted these ninjas to keep working to free their country, Tizuna couldn't help but feel bad that they were going to die. Naruto screamed again, "I didn't want to use this technique, but you asked me to." He let out a lot of chakra as he moved his hands through a number of hand seals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Zabuza counted the hand seals in shock. This jerk couldn't have known a B rank move. Naruto was releasing a lot of chakra, though, which made him change his mind. Even though the sudden move shocked him, the boy in his arms moved before he felt a stabbing pain in his chest. A kunai was buried deep inside the clone's chest when he looked down and saw the boy in his arms. The clone hit the boy with the last of its power before dissolving. One turned into smoke and the other into water. Another copy. Zabuza was shocked. He had no idea that the normal boy was actually the blonde's twin. It's strange that everyone, even Tizuna, had the same thought. They forgot that the boy there with them for almost a day was actually a copy of Naruto. Naruto screamed, "Lightning release, false darkness." As he looked over the last few hand seals and opened his mouth, which was now glowing yellow with lightning chakra. Illusion of darkness. That's a technique that gets a B. It's strange that Zabuza's instincts weren't telling him that technique was dangerous. Reason won out over his instincts, though. It wasn't a C ranked jutsu because the boy had done too many hand seals, the blonde's mouth was filled with lightning chakra, and the brat always yelled all of his moves. As Zabuza knew that lightning release techniques could kill quickly, he chose to end his relationship with Kakashi. He knew he couldn't tank that kind of move while the water prison was still up, so he did what made sense and blew it away. "Like I said, you shouldn't shout the names of your techniques, kid," Zabuza yelled as he jumped back from Kakashi. No one said anything out loud about Naruto's mistake, but the blonde didn't seem to notice or care. He sent out a very small, thin stream of lightning that didn't even make it a meter before it stopped. Naruto felt embarrassed as he watched everyone's shocked faces and then smiled at Zabuza. "I forgot to say, I don't know any lightning techniques yet." Everyone was shocked at the boy's balls when he had to fake a high level lightning technique to get Zabuza to free Kakashi. But such an odd and brave plan worked out in the end. Even though they were still in a very bad situation, Kakashi couldn't help but laugh when he realized the genin had tricked them all. At the same time, Zabuza was embarrassed and angry that a genin had played a joke on him, turning red. Nobody would know how stupid this is if everyone here died, he thought as his desire to kill grew stronger. He was no longer interested in fighting Kakashi. That spoiled blonde kid had to die. But Kakashi stopped him just as he took a step. The two ninjas began punching and kicking each other so fast that the people watching couldn't keep up. They had also used many ninjutsu moves against each other. Kakashi, taking a cue from Naruto, blocked all of Zabuza's moves with the stronger element. Kakashi was thrown into the water, and Zabuza crashed on nearby land. At the end, it looked like it was a tie. "As I already said, I won't let you hurt my genin." Kakashi stood up and wiped his brow. He was pretty sure he broke something, but it didn't bother him much. Zabuza stood up slowly because he knew he was almost out of breath. Both the hiding in mist technique and the water prison technique used a lot of chakra, and the shinobi had made a lot of copies. This was finally wearing him down. As Kakashi pulled out a kunai and moved in to finish the job, Zabuza said, "You lost. You were a skilled ninja. I will remember this fight until the day I die." Zabuza's words were cut off when two senbon landed in his neck and pinned him down, not moving. "You think you've won? Ha, don't make me laugh. It isn't over until..." A voice from the tree above Zabuza's body said, "Thank you for making him weaker." It was hard to find him. A new ninja showed up and shocked the group. Deep down, they all hoped they wouldn't have to fight again. Kakashi asked, "A hunter nin? What are you here for?" He didn't want to start a fight because he knew that if they did, things would really bad today for him and his team. When Naruto saw the new ninja, he instinctively opened his awareness again. He saw that the new ninja's chakra signature was the same as the first one, but it had a slight red tint to it. It wasn't strong, but it was there. Oh, I see. They were an enemy after all. I was told to kill Zabuza there, but I can't let you take his body because it has important information for Kirigakure. I hope you understand. The hunter nin said this while holding Zabuza's body before disappearing in a shunshin. Naruto was going to tell Kakashi about what he had found at first, but he saw that the Jonin's chakra was almost empty and still draining at a scary rate, so he decided not to say anything. As soon as the ninja left, Kakashi took off his forehead protector and put it over his Sharingan. After that, he looked at the group, smiled, and then fell to the ground. Sakura screamed, "Kakashi! Sensei!" She hoped her teacher wasn't dead. Sasuke also stopped moving because he didn't think his teacher, who seemed fine, would fall down after the fight. Naruto got down on his knees next to Kakashi's still body and looked for any internal injuries with his hand glowing a faint green. What should I do? The blonde thought to himself, Chakra fatigue and a few broken ribs, I need to make a stretcher. Naruto told Sasuke and Sakura, it's okay. Kakashi. Sensei is totally chakra drained right now. He then sent several shadow clones to the nearby lake to get some reeds. When the two heard this, they calmed down while Naruto continued to treat Kakashi's wounds. The blonde took out a vial of thick liquid and slowly lifted Kakashi's undershirt, showing his chest. His ribs had some pretty cool red and purple bruises on them. Naruto, you pervert. What the hell are you doing? Sakura glared at Naruto, being angry that her teammate would use this chance to sex with their teacher. Wait, maybe he meant to kiss Sasuke that way? This is what the pinkette thought to herself. Now isn't the time for this. Naruto said to himself as he carefully applied a thick paste to the hurt areas and then wrapped them properly with a bandage. Kakashi has multiple broken ribs which need to be attended to before we move him, in case the injury worsens. Sakura gave Naruto a slow nod because she didn't think he would know how to do more advanced first aid. Even though it was required in the academy, they only learned how to bandage cuts and scrapes. They weren't good at anything else. And where did you learn this, Naruto? Sasuke asked with a hint of jealousy. What did the boy at the very bottom of the class learn that no one else knew? Did he look down at them? Not letting anyone see his skill? I thought this would come from Sakura, not Sasuke, Naruto thought in shock at how silly things were. Their teacher was on the floor, and they kept asking him about what he had learned. He cut the conversation short with a hiss and asked, does it matter right now? I will explain later. He then began carefully putting bandages on Kakashi and lifting him on a makeshift stretcher made of sticks and woven reeds. Naruto used the clone sign to call forth 4 copies of himself. Each copy held one end of the stretcher and carefully picked it up. Tizuna-san, can you please lead us to your house so we can get Kakashi? Sensei to a bed? Tizuna gave a head nod. As a thank you for all they had done for him today, he was happy to do what they asked. It didn't take long for everyone to drag their tired bodies to a big wooden house. When Tizuna gently knocked on the wooden door, the group heard the sound of shuffled things and the patter of feet. The door was then unlocked and opened by a beautiful woman. Dad, you got back faster than I thought you would. Did Konoha turn down our request or? The woman asked quickly. She had been worried about her dad since he left the house to ask Konoha for help. But she had to cut herself off when she realized Tizuna wasn't alone. There was a boy with black hair, a girl with pink hair, and 5 blondes? Don't worry, I asked these super Strong ninjas to help. You should have seen what they did, Tazuna said with a smile, trying to make his daughter feel better about how dangerous his experience was. The Genin, on the other hand, had only one thought. Is that Tazuna's daughter? There was no doubt that Tsunami was not at all like what they would have expected from someone connected to Tazuna. She looked beautiful and grown up, and her smile made her look like a mother as she adored her father. While Tazuna was just Tazuna. It did not make sense. Thank you for coming to help, Wave. My name is Tsunami and I'm the daughter of the bridge builder you were hired to watch over. I'm sorry I had forgotten about you. Tsunami smiled at the Genin and then saw Kakashi flat on the ground on a stretcher. Tsunami looked at Kakashi's unconscious body and said, "Oh my, is he okay?" Naruto politely replied, "He's stable, but I'd like us to have a comfortable bed for him to rest in while he heals." The woman quickly nodded her head in agreement. Being mean to the ninja who got hurt while protecting her father wouldn't do. There's an extra bed in the guest room, but we didn't expect so many ninjas. Tsunami invited them in, feeling a little bad that she wasn't able to treat the Genin better. They thought that only one ninja would agree to go on the mission, so they borrowed a single bed from some neighbors. Tsunami thought to herself, it looks like I'll have to make more for dinner tonight. She led the group to the spare bedroom. Naruto and his clones carefully put Kakashi on the bed. Then the clones spread out, which shocked Tsunami. So it wasn't quintuplets, but a super ninja move? People would be sure she is Tazuna's daughter if they could hear what she is thinking. After politely telling everyone to leave the room, Naruto focused, and his hands started to glow green again. This time, he focused on using a more thorough diagnosis method to find out if Kakashi had any internal bleeding or organs that were shaking. No internal bleeding or organ damage, and it looks like I was able to cover all of the broken ribs and muscle bruises, Naruto said. He then saw that Kakashi's chest bruises were beginning to fade. Buddha Euro. Naruto closed his eyes and felt that Kakashi was shaping a lot of chakra without meaning to. His Sharingan eye directly transferred and used this chakra. Just a little less chakra than Kakashi was giving off was being used by the eye. If things keep going this way, Kakashi Sensei won't be able to fight for about a week. I wish there was a way to speed up his chakra recovery. At first, Naruto thought about using his medicine to heal chakra exhaustion, but it wasn't strong enough to instantly replenish Kakashi's large reserves. In addition, it was supposed to be taken by mouth instead of through an IV, which was very hard to do with Kakashi unconscious. When Naruto had an idea, he thought to himself, I wonder. On his unconscious teacher, he shouldn't have done something he had never done before, but it wouldn't put the man in danger. Naruto was ready to take a chance because he didn't know if Gado had hired any stronger ninjas on the same level as Zabuza. His plan was to make Kakashi conscious as soon as possible to feel safer. He moved his index finger to the left side of Kakashi's head and then tapped the side of his temple. Kakashi's eyes were still closed. Anyone who saw him would think he didn't do much and was just poking his teacher while she was asleep. Higuchi would be able to see that Naruto closed the tenketsu that led to Kakashi's left eye, though. As soon as the tenketsu closed, Naruto could tell that Kakashi was no longer shaping chakra without her will. Instead, his reserves were getting bigger a lot faster than they were before. The blonde stayed in the room for a while longer to check on Kakashi, but she decided that Kakashi's Sharingan wasn't affected and that the tenketsu wouldn't be open. Naruto left the room and went downstairs to meet the others after making sure the Jonin was still alive. Naruto told everyone, don't worry about him. Kakashi Sensei should be up later tonight. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Even though Sakura and Sasuke didn't show it, they were still afraid that once Zabuza was dead, another enemy ninja would attack them. Their worries were eased by the knowledge that Kakashi would be awake later. By the way, Tsunami-san, Naruto told Tsunami, I thought I'd let you know that we're getting more help soon. Tsunami looked a little thoughtful. He was confused by her sudden change in mood, but his confusion was calmed when Tsunami told him about her worries. I didn't expect so many ninjas to be arriving, so I haven't prepared enough food or bedding. I would go visit the local shops, but Gado's thugs are still terrorizing the town, and I would rather not leave. Naruto looked at Sasuke and Sakura, but saw that they were already pretty much out of breath. It's okay, Tsunami-san. How about I escort you? When Tazuna heard this, he looked relieved. He was sure that his daughter would be safe with the blonde because he knew how strong he was. Then we'll watch over Tazuna and Kakashi until help arrives, Sasuke said, glad that Naruto had decided to do something else. He knew that keeping an eye on their client and his family was a big job, but he was tired and didn't want to go to the shops. Sakura wasn't able to say anything in response to Naruto's offer because she was too tired to do so. Hearing Naruto's words, Tsunami still looked a little thoughtful. They wanted their Genin to lead the way because it would be safer. But seeing Tezuna's relief and small nod made her feel better. Her father was sure of the boy's skills, so she would trust Naruto even though she didn't know them herself. €. Naruto and Tsunami were walking down the road to the village. To make things less awkward, they were making small talk. But as soon as they walked into the small town, they stopped talking because Naruto didn't like what he saw. The village looked almost empty because there weren't many people walking around. There were only a few people there, and they were all begging for food and money to stay alive another day. Naruto watched the faces of everyone in the village. It looked like almost everyone had no soul. He saw that they were holding on to one hope. The road. He couldn't help but wonder how Tezuna had gotten the money and supplies to build the bridge when Wave was in such bad shape. Naruto was sure the man wasn't working with Gato because building the bridge was the exact opposite of what the evil businessman wanted. He tried to think of another reason, but he couldn't. Tsunami looked sad, but he was used to how bad things were in the village. She tried to keep her trips as short as possible, but she had to go buy food sometimes and check on the village every so often. She knew she couldn't change things right now, but she hoped that building the bridge would bring Wave back to its former glory. The two people finished their shopping quickly. Naruto couldn't help but notice that the prices of food were a lot higher than in Konoha. There was no reason for this high of an import tax, even if there was one. Gato has replaced most shop owners with his own people and is charging as much as possible for food and other necessities so he can take all of our money. Tsunami answered Naruto's question without speaking while he sighed in sadness. Naruto seemed to be lost. How did Gato manage to control so many businesses? Wouldn't you have noticed earlier if he was attempting to gain a monopoly on Wave? Tsunami replied angrily, we were tricked. She thought about how stupid her country was to trust the businessman. Gato told us that he wanted to help build Wave so that the country could be more successful and he could also grow his businesses. At first, we were wary of him, but he gave us a lot of money to build better fishing boats and other important buildings, so we let down our guard. We didn't know that he was slowly taking over Wave's shops, starting with the more expensive ones and working his way down to the more common food stores. Of course, we were suspicious at the time, but we didn't think much of it. The man had spent a lot of money making our fishing industries better, and Wave was stronger than it had ever been. Nevertheless, one day there was a rumor that someone had seen Gato do bad things like drug smuggling. We didn't believe it at first because we thought someone was trying to hurt Gato's reputation, but more and more people said the same thing. Someone looked into it and saw that Gato's purchases seemed fishy and that he had control over our imports and exports. Gato must have seen that we were beginning to doubt him because he quickly sent his thugs to scare the village into following his orders. At first, a lot of people were against him. They would not let him treat us like slaves and control us like that. But Gato began killing people, which slowly made everyone less willing to fight, and then one day. Tsunami ended her speech with tears in her eyes. Naruto wasn't expecting such a strong response to his question, but he looked at the older woman and said, I'm sorry about that. Right now, we're trying to build the bridge to end his monopoly and finally show the world what kind of man Gato is, so he can't do that again. It was true what he had heard that Tezuna wanted to build a bridge to free them because of Gato's monopoly in Wave, but seeing and hearing are two different things. Gato's actions had a lot more effects on the people in Wave than he had thought. Excuse me, do you have any extra food? Naruto turned around to see a young boy in dirty clothes standing in front of a younger girl dressed in the same clothes. The boy looked at them with suspicion, but his stubbornness gave way when he saw how badly the girl behind him was dressed. He begged Tsunami and Naruto to help her. They had bags full of food. If they were nice, they could share. Naruto got down on one knee and stared the boy straight in the eye. The boy stared back without blinking and then smiled. Sure thing, but first, how about you get some other kids like you and your little sister and come meet me here? The boy looked confused. He had asked for food, not to be a gopher. He thought it was a simple yes or no. The strangers would either give them food or not. Naruto made several shadow clones, which surprised Tsunami, without caring about what the boy said. Naruto told the clones, you know what to do, and threw 2 scrolls at them. One of them took one and died in a puff of smoke, while the others followed the boy and girl to where they were standing. After everyone left, Naruto smiled at Tsunami and looked at her. She was confused by what he was doing. I thought I'd cook something for everyone, he said. While the bridge is being built, it's the least I could do. How come? Why? Why do you want to do this? You could tell Tsunami was upset because she didn't expect the boy to help them or wave. His only job was to keep Tizuna safe from Gado's thugs. After hearing this, Naruto looked a little sad and then turned away. I will help them because I have the power to do so, he said. There's no reason to help someone who needs it. I will never be like them, he thought to himself after reading that last line. They had turned down his cries for help and attention. He would never be like them. Thank you, Naruto-san. Tsunami smiled at the boy as they walked back to her house, but she didn't know about Naruto's problems. €. As Naruto and Kakashi got closer to Tsunami's house, he heard heavy coughing and an unknown voice. At first, he was scared of the unknown person because he didn't know if it was an enemy or someone helping them, but when he heard Kakashi's voice too, he calmed down. Opening the door, Tsunami said, "Father, we are back." Naruto peered through the opening and saw that everyone was sitting down at the table. Sasuke and Sakura still looked a little tired, but they looked much better than they did earlier. Kakashi, on the other hand, still looked worse for wear. Tizuna said, "Naruto-san, Tsunami. Dear Kakashi. Sensei, how are you doing?" Naruto asked with worry. He didn't think the Genin would be awake so quickly. He thought the man would still be asleep in a couple of hours. There was a smile on Kakashi's face, but he was surprised inside. He thought his ribs would heal on their own in 2 weeks and his chakra would heal over the course of a week. But his ribs were already on their way to healing and his chakra was at full strength. The man also felt something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Kakashi wondered what Naruto had done to help him heal so quickly. He wasn't feeling the familiar aftertaste of taking a solider pill to heal his chakra, so that couldn't be it. "I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to say hello when we got there. My name is Kakashi Hatake, and I'm the leader of Team 7. Kakashi kindly put out his hand to Tsunami, who gently shook it. "Hi, my name is Tsunami. Thank you for taking care of my father. I appreciate it." Tsunami felt bad that Kakashi got hurt while taking care of Tizuna, but he was glad to see him up and moving around like he was fine. "My name is Hayate Gecko, and I'm a Tokubetsu Jonin from Konoha." Hayate also put out his hand, but quickly pulled it back to cover his mouth and coughed deeply. "I'm sorry. I did not have time to get my long-term cough medicine. Will any cough medicine work? What is it?" Naruto asked as he reached into his bag, took out a small vial, and gave it to Hayate. "I'm not sure. I'd have to check," Naruto said. Hayate looked surprised as he gently took the vial from Naruto and took a small sip. The medicine helped him right away. It wasn't as strong as the medicine he had ordered especially for his cough, but it was much better than before. He gave the boy with blonde hair a stiff smile and said, "Thank you, that was very helpful." Naruto gave Hayate some extra cough medicine. "No problem, here are some spares." Naruto had never had a cold before, so he didn't need any of the cold and flu medicines he had made and bought. Hayate thanked the boy again and carefully put the medicine vials in his pocket. "Thank you," he said. "I've heard about your adventures from your team and the client. Good job on the escort." "Hee, it's not a big deal. We weren't able to kill Zabuza anyway," Naruto said with a shy scratch on the back of his head. He then dropped a bomb on everyone in the room. "Eh? What?" Sakura and Tizuna screamed in shock. They could see that the hunter ninja had killed Zabuza. Sasuke had some doubts when he saw that Senbon was used, but he was shocked when it was proven. They had already come to that conclusion, but Hayate and Kakashi nodded to show that they agreed. They didn't think Naruto would agree with them. "Zabuza is still alive, even though he won't be able to do anything for 2 weeks, Kakashi said. "But you shouldn't worry about him or his assistant." He also said, "Don't worry, leave everything to us." It was making Sasuke mad that he was being treated like a child. He said, "You can't expect us to do nothing. How could he get stronger and kill his brother if he is being spoiled and given no danger?" "That's right. You're not supposed to do nothing. Sure, Gato might have hired more than just Zabuza and his assistant. We've already met Gozu and Maizu." Kakashi told Sasuke, "If there are other enemy ninjas or thugs, you will fight them instead. We are telling you to leave Zabuza and his assistant to us. They are too tough for you." Sasuke grumbled but reluctantly agreed. Sasuke believed in himself and his skills, but he wasn't cocky. He was sure that he could not beat Zabuza in 2 weeks, no matter how much he trained. At the same time, Sakura was glad they wouldn't have to fight that monster again. Naruto, on the other hand, just shrugged and said yes. He knew ahead of time that he wouldn't have to fight Zabuza or his assistant once help arrived. He was sure that his little trick in the last fight was a bit of luck, and he knew that he still couldn't beat the swordsman. Right, now that we got that out of the way, let's eat, Tazuna stated. As they talked, Tsunami had been cooking dinner for everyone for the past 30 minutes and was already setting the table. It made Naruto wonder if Tazuna was secretly rich or had a way to get away. Tazuna-san, how did you manage to afford and transport all the building materials? Tazuna raised his brow at the sudden inquiry. Well, we were planning to build a bridge even before Gato arrived. If we wanted to expand the village and increase our profits, we had to find a way to connect to the mainland to increase the number of trading routes. Gato's arrival only sped up the construction of the bridge. Where did you get the money? Sakura asked. She didn't know if any ninjas were there, but she did know that Wave wasn't a very big country and it would be hard to get the money to build the bridge. We actually have a monopoly on most of the fishing that goes to nearby countries like the Land of Fire and the Land of Tea. We used to export to the Land of Water too, but there has been fighting recently that made it too dangerous to keep doing that. And finally, the main reason we were able to get the money for the bridge was because Wave is home to a very rare and tasty type of fish that sells for a very high price. This fish is the ice jade fish, Tazuna said with pride, but some people looked at him funny. Before he remembered what he had read in the library, Naruto looked confused. It was about a very rare fish that is born with a lot of chakra, which slowly feeds its flesh as it grows and makes it taste even better than normal fish. This fish lives in water that is below 0 degrees Celsius, which is how it got its name, ice jade fish. An ice jade fish? Could we get some before we leave, do you think? Naruto drooled as he thought about how he could make ramen or other fish dishes with the most expensive fish in the world. Oh, you know about it, right? Yes, kiddo, sure thing, we can pack a few for you, Tazuna said, making Naruto smile with joy. Naruto, do you know about the fish? Kakashi asked with interest. He didn't think his student would know about something as strange as ice jade fish. The other kids were also interested in the boy, who told them briefly about the fish. In fact, Kakashi. Sensei, you have probably seen this fish too, or maybe even eaten it. This is the kind of fish that is often served at daimyo banquets or by very wealthy merchants. Kakashi was shocked and said, that fish? He had the pleasure of tasting that fish just once, and it was without a doubt the best food he had ever eaten. Yes, luckily, neighboring countries haven't become interested in robbing our industry because it's so rare and expensive. This is because they don't know how to fish for ice jade fish like we do, so they'd rather pay a lot of money for them. Of course, things would be different if this fish was easier to find and still had the same taste and texture, Tazuna said. When Kakashi and Hayate heard this, they were able to talk Tazuna into letting them take some fish home with them as well. Sasuke and Sakura looked at the happy trio with a strange look on their faces and then asked for one for themselves. The group thanked Tsunami for the meal and then went to bed to rest. Kakashi told the group that he wanted to start a new kind of training, which made Naruto hopeful that his teacher would actually teach something.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.